Hello there, BookTube. My name is Daniel. Welcome back to my channel, Guilty Feet. It's about damn time, and I've got no rhythm. It's a warm, sweltering. I've just turned off the air conditioner because it makes too much noise. I've got the door closed because it's noisy outside, so I may melt during the course of this video. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about the book of Longlist, because everyone seems to be talking about it this week, and why I won't be reading it. I've got a long relationship with the Booker Prize. I think it's one of the first prizes I started following, probably going back to it felt like a very sort of adult prize. So the first one I remember, I think contemporaneously, was probably Hotel du Lac, Anita Bruckner, which I never read. Schindler's Ark was a winner in '83, I think, and I remember that. And then after that, I started reading around the Booker and always paying attention to the shortlist. The Longlist, I don't think, was really a thing back then. I think in those days it was just a shortlist, and then the winner. I think they only started announcing the Longlist in the last 5 or 6 years. And I also went back in time a little bit, just because I love prizes. They're great discovery engines. So in the same way that I've looked at Oscar winners and I've watched older movies because they were awarded prizes, it's a way of surfacing, and I still think the Booker is great for that. But some of the great Booker winners over the years that I've read that I would recommend to everybody, because these informed my early reading. I've got here Heat and Dust by Ruth Prawa-Jabvala, famously still to date the only person ever to have won the Booker Prize and an Oscar, and I think she has a couple of Oscars even. She wrote the screenplays for Room with a View and something else as well. Anyway, Heat and Dust, a great novel. There was a time when before the Booker Prize opened up and allowed Americans, at the time it was only allowing authors writing in English in the UK and other former members of the British Empire. So there was we had winners from New Zealand and Australia, and there was a lot of books being written about India, and so there's a whole series of books with an Indian theme that have won. Heat and Dust is one of them, famously Midnight's Children, and then later on there was Kiran Desai's book, I think. Anyway, that was one of the earliest ones I read. Another one which I think is almost forgotten, but I read this, is a stunningly great novel. That's The Siege of Krishnapur by J.G. Farrell. If you have any love, I know Bob the Booker has gone back and really looked at shortlists over the years, but I don't remember if he's read this one yet or not. But if you have any love of great British novels and looking for things that are forgotten, this was a winner, another one of those Booker's obsession with India. But so there came a time, and I say every year I used to follow the Booker, and there used to be, I'm talking now in the last 10 years, there was a website in England called The Book People. It's now defunct or bankrupt or out of business for whatever reason. And every year they would put together, when the Booker shortlist was announced, they would bundle together all the shortlisted books and sell them at a marked discount. So if they were still being published in hardback, that would have been at the time £12-15 for a new hardback book, and they would sell the entire Booker shortlist for the equivalent of £5 a book when they were all still in hardbacks. So there were a few years where I did that. I think 2011, 2012, I think was the first year I did that, and then it skipped a few years because I'd already bought one of the books, or I didn't want to read the shortlist. But I would buy. I've read probably 1 or 2 books from the shortlist, sometimes as many as 4 or 5, and then there's 3 years where I read all 6 shortlisted books. So I think 2013 I think was the first year, and then 2018 and 2019 and 2019 is what killed Booker for me. And there's only one reason why 29 killed Booker for me. I read the entire shortlist because I bought the entire shortlist from the Book People, and this is the book that put me off the Booker. There have been some hit and misses over the years. I've read books there, I've forgotten books, but Ducks Newburyport sucked so hard for me. It took me a month to read this, and the fact that it kept repeating, and it's just pages and pages like that. And some people were sort of mesmerized. These are different pages I'm showing you each time. Just endless, paragraph-less prose. That was just really, really painful for me. And since then, I've really struggled to get back into the Booker. Over the years, though, I've read enough perfectly ordinary shortlisted and longlisted books, many of which are completely forgotten. Anyone remember Carol Birch's Jamrach's Menagerie? I don't. I read this in 2011, and I could tell you very little about it. I remember this book fondly, but I don't remember much about it. Narcopolis by Jeet Thayil. Also, I think shortlisted, maybe longlisted. Anyway, I've read enough of these books that sort of just drift in and out of my consciousness to know that if I skip a year or two, it's not going to be the end of the world. But let's have a look at this year's long list, and I'll tell you why I'm not reading the whole thing. So starting off, Glory by No Violet Bulawayo, which I think was a lot of people predicted this was going to be on the list. I read the last book of hers that was nominated. This was 2013. I think it was the first year I read the entire shortlist. Got this hardback shortlist of the Mangan Book of Prize. It says 2013. There's a sticker on top of the thing. It's not all printed on the cover. So I got this in October 2013. So maybe even have arrived after the winner was announced. But I read the entire shortlist that year, and this was okay. This really wasn't a home run for me at all, and I'm not running out to buy Glory. I'm not a big fan of talking animal books, and that just hasn't seized my imagination. I'm not going to read that. Trust by Hernan Diaz. Heard some good things about it. I've also seen that it's big and don't fancy it. Sorry. I'm going to save this one till last. That's great. Booth by Karen Joy Fowler. I read We're All Completely Beside Ourselves, which I really liked. I know a lot of people didn't love that book so much. Grace said that she didn't love it, and but she thought it was a great twist. There really is a great twist in We're All Completely Beside Ourselves. I worked it out about a page before the twist is revealed. So on the one hand, I thought great. On the other hand, I realized, whatever, we're getting told the secret now anyway. I just thought the book worked. It worked for me on every level, but it's kind of, when I heard about Booth, I just couldn't generate any enthusiasm, so I don't think I'm going to be picking up Booth by Karen Joy Fowler. And when I say I'm not going to be picking up those three books, Glory, Trust, and Booth, I think even if they win, I haven't been able to summon the enthusiasm for Shuggie Bain. Just felt a little downbeat for me, and maybe I can do 250 pages of downbeat. I couldn't do 480, 500 pages. Because I've read a couple. What was that terrible book, The Year of the Runaways? Is that a shortlisted book? And then the other one by Obioma really wrecked me. Just long arse, depressing books. I'm just trying to distance myself from those. So those are three that I'm not going to. The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida by Shan Karunatilaka. This is the Sri Lankan book. It's not calling my name. I'm not going to read that, I don't think. Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. That's the very small book with the Magdalen Laundries. Is that sorry, the Magdalen Laundries, about the women who's in Ireland whose babies were taken away from them. Maybe it's short, but really. Then what else can we see? The Colony by Audrey McGee. Now that has intrigued me, just because the enthusiasm that people have been speaking about this book. I didn't know anything about it. A lot of people read it prior to the announcement, and maybe if I find that, I might pick that up. Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer, a first debut novel. Not calling out my name. Nightcrawling by Layla Motley. I just did a review of it. I finished it the day before the announcement was made about that it landed on the Booker Longlist. It's a debut novel. It's very flawed. A great work from the youngest ever author to be longlisted. I think that's just if I'm thinking with my cynic's hat on, then I think this is Booker making a strong pick to get the long list spoken about. I don't think that's going to make the shortlist. It's just, this is not a fully cooked author yet. She may become one, or she may decide to devote her life to poetry rather than novel writing. this was not the complete package for me. And then After Sappho by Selby Lynn Schwartz, which kind of intrigues me, except that it's published by Galley Beggar Press. So Bob the Booker, I know, is a big fan and subscribes to Galley Beggar Press. But this book killed me, and therefore I'm not going to pick up another 500-page work by Galley Beggar Press until I know better. So I like the sound of After Sappho, but I'm done. I'm post-traumatic reading disorder from reading Duck's Newburyport. Okay, a couple of books that I've left out that I want to talk about. So the first is Treacle Walker by Alan Garner. I didn't know anything about it, hadn't heard of this. I know it came out last October. I hadn't heard of this before it was longlisted, but Alan Garner is a figure from my youth. Alan Garner wrote a bunch of children's books in the late 60s, which were very in vogue when I was a young child reader. So I think some of them were read in school and some of them bought for us, and they were all a bit weird and creepy and things that weren't so interesting to me back then. So I definitely read Elidor. I think I may have read The Owl Service. Then there was The Weird Stone of Breezing Amen, which I didn't read. So I think the only two that I think I definitely read, and I don't have copies here because either they were school or they were in my mum would have taken. I don't know if I owned them. I had them from school, I had to give them back, or they were part of on a shelf at home, and my mum got rid of them. But Elidor definitely read, and The Owl Service I think so as well. I think there was a TV show which was spooky and weird and sort of tapping into English folklore, and I guess the direct line from that to what Max Porter did with Lanny, I think those are of a piece with Alan Garner's work. And then, as I say, these books were written in the 60s. That's 50 plus years ago, and I was reading him 40 years ago. I know he published an adult novel in the 90s, and to be honest, with all due respect to Mr. Garner, I wasn't sure necessarily. I don't think I thought a lot about it, but if you'd asked me, I would have said, no, this man cannot still be alive and still writing. And the fact that he's been nominated for this book, and I like the way it's been discussed, and I think I have a much warmer attitude towards that weirdo sort of English folk attitudes. And I loved both Max Porter's books, Grief is the Thing with Feathers and Lanny, which I really, really loved. So I just ordered Treacle Walker from Book Depository, and that's coming my way. The second book that I've ordered is Case Study by Graham Cray Burnett, and I read his bloody project when this was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2016, and I like this. I like the fact that Booker Prize is willing to go a little genre. I've heard good things about Case Study. I like the look of the book, and so that's another one I've ordered. So far, read Nightcrawling, ordered Treacle Walker and Case Study, and then the last book of the 13, which I want to talk about, is The Trees by Percival Everett, which I'm just thrilled to see on the long list. I'm thrilled this book gets any recognition. I recommend the US edition more than the UK edition. I love the design of this, and I can't do it justice. I don't think you can even see the fact that there are names written here, something I didn't really notice until I got to the end of the book, and then started seeing that this is a monument to those names, and I won't say any more than that. I think this is an outstanding work. It's not a subtle book by any stretch. It's a sledgehammer of a book, but I just would love to see this get a great recognition. You might say that I'm rooting for The Trees. Really recommend it. My thing is, so I've read 2, this and Nightcrawling. I've ordered 2 more. I think that's probably it for me and the Booker long list, but I already know that this is the book that I want to win, or at least I don't care what wins. The book prizes are fun, but this is the book I'd love to see people read. I think it's astonishing. I bought my next Percival Everett book, which is called Percival Everett, and I'm going to probably read more of him. My sense is that he's a writer who's been doing interesting, unusual, different work each time for a number of years, and long overdue some recognition. But even if that weren't true, even if this was the only thing he produced, read The Trees. It's in your face and angry and very funny, and just unlike anything else I've read in the last couple of years, in the best possible way. And that's it. Thank you. God bless. Bye.